UFC 5 was released on December 21, 1995. It is the fifth entry in the Ultimate Fighting Championship Series and the first event in the organization's 5-year history. The event was hosted in Charlotte, North Carolina, and played a pivotal role in launching the UFC access of pay-per-view television. UFC 5 featured an 8-man tournament format similar to the 4 preceding it with some modifications. Some of the modifications included semi-finals and a finals round instead of a grand finals, with fighters competing for a $50,000 prize. Ken Shamrock was the main event at UFC 5 and went on to win the tournament, taking home the $50,000 grand prize. UFC 5 also featured a debut match of the legendary Royce Gracie, who easily defeated Keith Hackney by submission in the first round. Upon its release, the event met with positive reception from both fans and critics alike, with many citing it as a major milestone for the organization. In addition to the tournament, UFC 5 was packed with matches featuring some of the organization's most talented and experienced fighters. Among them were Oleg Taktarov, David Tank Abbott, Dan Severn, Ray Longo, Mark the Hammer Coleman, and more. UFC 5 also marked the return of Marco Ruiz to the organization, who won his match against Paul Vairlands by submission. The press conference and weigh-in before the fight was filled with energy as the fighters each stepped to the scales and made their ambitions before the battle. On the day of the event, the venue was packed as fans from all over the world gathered to witness the fight between some of the organization's best combatants. The fights that night were full of excitement, as fighters faced off and did battle in the octagon to determine who would win the tournament. The matches that night were not without controversy. Oleg Taktarov was disqualified in his match against Patrick Smith after referee Big John McCarthy deemed a low blow to be illegal. UFC 5 was a pivotal moment in the UFC's history as it launched the organization's pay-per-view access and established the tournament format it is famous for. The heavyweight featured prominently at UFC 5, and for the first time allowed classes for 265-pound fighters or heavier. UFC 5 also marked the debut of UFC 10, which was held a few months later at the Ohio Veterans Memorial Coliseum. This event featured a mix of tournament and non-tournament matches and was designed to provide better exposure to newer martial arts. Royce Gracie returned to the UFC for this event and won the tournament. UFC 5 is often regarded as a historic event in mixed martial arts and helped to shape the future of the sport. It has been credited with being the first true pay-per-view event in the UFC, as well as one of the most important in the organization's early history. The event also set the tone for the next 4 events in the UFC and helped to establish the tournament structure which would eventually become standard. The fight card included matches between some of the best fighters in the world and showcased their talents to a global audience. In the end, the outcome of UFC 5 showed just how far the organization had come in a few short years. The event was a success from both a technical and financial point of view, and the organization flourished in the months that followed.